Ahoy there, mateys, and welcome, Archetype Builds. I am standing here in front of a castle in a French town named Donjon, of course French for dungeon. So of course we're talking about a build that has nothing to do with either castles or dungeons. Let's talk about the pirate. So I'm old enough to remember the craze about ninjas versus pirates, and I did my ninja video a little while back. And I was thinking about how I could incorporate a pirate build. Issue is, there's already a swashbuckler class. It's a rogue subclass, and if anyone was looking for what pirate build they wanted to make, they'd probably pick up on that, grab swashbuckler, and be playing the whole way through. And it's not a bad class at all. It's a charisma hybrid rogue, which is fascinating. Your charisma modifier to your initiative rolls, you're making certain checks to engage enemies in one-on-one combat, and you get a new way to use your sneak attack, which has much more to do with this kind of dualist persona that you have where you're better in one-on-one duels. Overall, the subclass speaks to a single target lockdown, almost like tank or dualist, soloist, if you will. And that's all right, but what I imagine most players want when they want to play a pirate is someone who is working that cutlass, possibly with a dagger in their offhand, working as a part of a crew as the whole crew comes over and takes on the other ship, and probably someone who has some relevant skills having to do with navigation, dealing with the water, and perception as well for looking through that hourglass and being up in the crow's nest. What's the build that I would recommend? I present to you today the swashbuckling pirate. Now we are going to have some pretty good charisma on this character. This is a pirate who's much more charismatic, influential. This is someone who's a leader, maybe angling to be the captain of his own ship. And we are going to take some good charisma, as high a dexterity as we possibly can. Dexterity is our primary stat because that's what we're going to be using for all of our fighting. And then obviously try not to die with a decent constitution modifier. Given our focus on charisma and dexterity, one race that would be particularly perfect for this build is the Eladrin. The Eladrin are like super special elves that come directly from the Feywild. They are supercharged with all that Fey energy, and they usually belong to one of the 4 seasons. The Eladrin I'm going to recommend for you is winter. I think our images of pirates sailing the 7 seas always have sunny skies. It's important to remember that the ocean is this like deep, cold place, and that maybe you have been with the ocean so long that it has begun to rub off on you a little bit, and so you're this water-themed, cold winter Eladrin. Part of the reason why is because our Fey step, the racial ability given to us by Eladrin, allows us to teleport, and with the winter we're going to be able to frighten someone who is next to us when we teleport. I'll explain why that's relevant when we get into kind of the swashbuckler abilities, but you can already see having a free teleportation as part of your racial is incredible, and the Eladrin is a very powerful race. Of course, our background is going to be as a sailor, and we are going to take that first level in swashbuckler. I'm planning to go swashbuckler for the first 4 levels. Why 4 levels? Because swashbuckler doesn't get to have that extra attack, and the sneak attack damage that we are pulling up doesn't really scale all that well. What we are getting from 4 levels of swashbuckler is, firstly, expertise, which I recommend putting into our survival. Typically speaking, navigation checks using like sighting the stars or turning the wheel of the ship are typically survival checks, and we are treating wisdom as a dump stat. If you are a pirate and you can't steer a ship, that's a big problem for us. So not only are we going to add proficiency, I think we're going to add expertise as well. We're also going to get our sneak attack, which we love. This is going to add some extra d6s, and because we are planning to go swashbuckler, we're going to be able to use this on most of our attacks up until later levels. We're also going to get Thieves' Cant, which, you know, maybe it'll come in handy. It could do. Maybe you could talk to your DM about making this kind of like a pirate's code. I think that would be pretty excellent. And if there are no other rogues in the party, why not? It's not really being taken up by some other big important thing. And then we are going to get Cunning Action, which is going to allow us as a bonus action to hide, dash, or disengage. We are probably not going to need the disengage option very often, and we're not the sorts to run and hide from a fight. But that dash might prove very useful as we increase our reliance on mobility and positioning. Here at level 3, we are going Swashbuckler, and we're going to get 2 main abilities. The first one allows us to add our Charisma to our initiative rolls, so we are going to be starting a little bit sooner than most of our allies most of the time, and hopefully starting before the enemies get their turn. What we want to do on our first turn in combat is run in and find an edge of the enemy. If there's one enemy, that's easy. If there's a group of them, we want to head to the outskirts of that group to either side and engage one-on-one with one of the bad guys. Our Rakish Audacity is going to allow us to use sneak attack if it's just you with no one else around you and your enemy. So you are going to get to focus in on that one with your cutlass, and hopefully you're able to pick that person out of the crowd early on with that add to your initiative. Then at level 4, we are going to take the Magic Initiate feat. I know, it's so weird, right? But this is because we want to have a friend to scout things out, to look around for us. We want someone who is going to be our partner in crime. And so you're going to get a little parrot on your shoulder. It is at this point that we must depart from the rogue subclass. Our sneak attack scaling really isn't worth the investment of all these extra levels. And our level 10 feature with Swashbuckler puts us in a position that we don't necessarily want to be in. We have Charisma, we have Dexterity, and we want to head to a class that's going to make us the best duelist we can possibly be. I see you looking at Fighter. I see you looking there on your screen. And we're going Bard. I know. Let me explain. There's a particular Bard subclass that seems tailor-made for this particular play style. What particular play style am I talking about? I'm talking about a single attack per turn designed to deal a lot of damage and then provide a lot of mobility. What our abilities are letting us do right now is swoop in to the side, attack someone on the edge of our enemy's control, and then dip out without opportunity attacks. This is a really good fit for a certain type of bard that I've looked at recently. And I couldn't help but throw these two together into an exciting mix for our pirate here. This is really leaning into the charismatic pirate captain, someone who is in command of their ship, of their crew, and we are going to be supporting them through our things like our bardic inspiration and some of our spellcasting. I know spellcasting doesn't usually go with pirate, and you can go fighter and pick up all the relevant fighting styles and feats and stuff like that, but we're here for something more interesting and extravagant and flamboyant. You are now the Jack Sparrow, the Captain Barbossa, someone whose very word puts fear, but also a little bit of inspiration into the hearts of your fellow pirates. We are going to start out with that spellcasting. For our spellcasting, of course, we're going to be getting cantrips. I recommend a mage hand, the staple of rogues and thieves everywhere. And then I think maybe grab yourself a message so that you can speak to teammates, especially because you're going to be very mobile running around the battlefield. It might be good to have the ability to just send them something that you are thinking about or that you've seen. I think you've got to take Vicious Mockery if you have access to it from the Bard spell list. I think this is especially appropriate for a more charismatic, swashbuckling rogue who's fencing away and then maybe throws out an insult to hurt somebody. Generally speaking, you're going to want to preference your weapon attacks over this kind of spell, but it's good to have something a little bit more ranged in a pinch. For our first level spells, this is where I think we are going to, because our play style is actually very survivable, we are running in and attacking, but then we have a lot of features that allow us to get out of range of our enemy long before they have a chance to hit us and without opportunity attacks. We're either teleporting with phase step, we're using our bonus action, or just the swashbuckler features allow us to walk away without opportunity attacks. I think we could actually keep concentration on a spell for a decent amount of time. So I think start looking into spells that you can throw out at the beginning of combat and just hold that concentration and be a passive benefit to your allies. 2 that I picked out, Bane would be fun. It's the opposite of Bless. Your enemies were going to subtract a d4 from their rolls. My favorite, and I put this on every build, Fairy Fire. Really look into Fairy Fire. It's a very good spell, especially on groups of enemies. And you can just flavor this as you being an effective pirate captain and calling out encouragement to your men or getting their blood boiling before the combat so they go in with a lot of advantage on their attacks against the enemies. But if you can hold Fairy Fire, your enemy is going to be made quick work of. Last thing is during combat, we don't actually have a lot to do with our reactions. because we're running out of combat or out of a threatened radius, we're not really going to get opportunity attacks on our opponents. So we do have a bit of a reaction problem. Now, Silvery Barbs fixes that reaction problem. Silvery Barbs, incredible spell. This is what you're going to be using your first level spell slots on most of the time. In fact, as soon as we get access to second level spell slots, I'd recommend just upcasting either Fairy Fire or Bane if you want to get more people with Bane, and then just using all of those first level spell slots for Silvery Barbs. Whenever you can, use Silvery Barbs. We are going to get our Bardic Inspiration, and now we do have a little bit of competition for our bonus action, because we have our Cunning action that'll allow us to dash if we want to. We have Bardic Inspiration that allows us to give out a Inspiration die, and we have our Fey Step that we can use every once in a while that's also going to take a bonus action. So that is a lot of bonus action activities, but in my opinion, you will very rarely be using the Cunning action on this character. Cunning action is essentially in a case where your enemies begin to surround you and you need to dip out and you don't have enough of that 30 feet of movement to get out of there, so then you need to bonus action dash. If you have failed to land a hit on your target, you won't be able to avoid the opportunity attacks, so you would want to Fey Step out, perhaps even frightening them with your Winter Ladron ability so that they don't come running after you. And then the rest of the time, I think it's pretty much free to use your Bardic, which you won't have too many of because we are multiple ability score dependent or mad, so your Charisma is unlikely to be above a +2 at this point. So you get 2 Bardic Inspirations in that combat. You play them out strategically. If you need to run away, you have your bonus action options available. Every single turn, you should be taking the attack action with your action. Every turn, no exceptions. Anything else you need to do for that turn, you can do it with your bonus action. You've got plenty of options. The next thing we're going to get as a bard is Jack of all trades, which I absolutely love for our pirate. I do think that we are a bit of the skill monkey of the group as well. We're the leader. We pick people off the sides during combat, and then during skill checks, we've got our expertise from rogue. We will get expertise in bard, and even if we don't, we're adding half of our proficiency. Pretty exciting. Your proficiency at this point is a 3, right? So you're adding 1 to each of these checks, but pretty soon we'll be adding 2 to any check that doesn't involve your proficiency already. At level 3, we are going to be taking our college for our bard, and the college that I have in mind is that most noble of duelists, the College of Swords. I used the College of Swords recently in my video about the D&D movie builds. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But I thought that Edgin, as a bard, but also someone who hits people with his lute and doesn't seem to do a lot of magic, is probably in that college. What I love about the College of Swords is you get so much here at 3rd level. For just this 3-level dip, we are getting a fighting style, picking dueling, of course. We get these cool sword flourishes as well, so once per turn. So that means this is going perfectly with our sneak attack because we're just making that 1 attack per turn. We can add either a defensive flourish, a mobile flourish, or a slashing flourish. These are going to consume our Bardic Inspiration. So now your bonus action is a little less tied up because you're not really giving out inspiration anymore. You need these babies for your flourishes. Most of the time, if our A game is happening, that means you are on the edge of whatever cluster of enemies there is. You're making 1 sword stroke, hitting your opponent so they can't take opportunity attacks, and then running away, and then running back in to hit them again. You probably want to be using the slashing flourish in that case. Slashing is just going to add some extra damage, but we absolutely love it. The defensive is more the case where you feel like a lot of enemies are coming for you. Maybe you're caught out without your allies or without support. And the mobile is, of course, the really dangerous one. We already have a bonus action dash if we need it, or our Fey Step if we need it. But this would allow us to take additional movement without those opportunity attacks if we needed to get out of there. I think mobile is highly overlapping with some of the features that we already have. I would focus on slashing, maybe defense if you really feel like you need it. The other thing we're going to get is, if we land that 1 attack, our movement speed increases, which is amazing because we were about to run anyway. So you go in, you slash with your 1 attack, you're adding your sneak attack, maybe you're adding your slashing die as well, and then, without opportunity attacks from the target that you just attacked, you can move way back. Maybe so far back that the enemy is reluctant to even go and try and get you. Here at 3rd level, we are 3rd level bard, 7th level for our character. We're also getting 2nd level spells. Here we are going to be looking into spells that can be more used outside of combat than inside of combat. I like the idea of being able to pop an aid before combat so that your allies are all bolstered. Remember, we are the pirate captain giving rousing speeches to our crew before we send them off into battle. And then what pirate would you be if you couldn't locate an object? So we're going to take locate object as well. I think it is very fun to have a pirate that's very like treasure focused and very like magic item focused and be like, I've plotted a course to our whatever it is. I can smell the gold in the air. That would be very cool as well. Of course, you can use these second level spell slots for that upcasted Bane if you want to. Keep those first level spell slots free for Silvery Barbs. I think this is really fantastic because what we are essentially doing is dipping into the combat, dealing a bunch of damage, dipping out without any danger to ourselves at all. And we do have a lot of that extra spell casting to back us up. And this is only level 7 for our character. We've got 3 more to go. So at Bard 4, we're getting that ability score increase or feat. I think that we have probably gone without boosting our stats in a long time. If all you care about is that damage and that combat aspect, I think maybe lean in and boost that dexterity. I think it's probably a really good move, but I like it when my character has abilities that I can do. So I'm going to boost my charisma to increase my bardic inspiration die count by 1, giving me an additional flourish that will be per short rest when we get the Fount of Inspiration. At level 5, that bardic inspiration is turning into a D8, which is fantastic, and we are recovering on a short rest. So now we are actually getting a ton of flourishes over the course of an adventuring day. This is a big boost and is going to make us very happy. And of course, that number of short rests is multiplied by that charisma modifier, which is why I just bumped it. So now we are doing a lot of extra slashing damage on our turns to our target. In addition to our Font of Inspiration, we are also getting our 3rd level spell slots. I think we might as well dip in and be a little more explicitly magical here because I love the Mass Healing Word spell. We do have a lot of uses for our bonus action, but Mass Healing Word is a big game changer bonus action spell. I think having this in the toolkit to pop out if our allies are not doing well would be fantastic. If you want to, you can just flavor this as the captain kind of like yelling at the crew, giving them a tongue lashing and being like, get up, you lazy dogs, it's not that bad, it's just a flesh wound. And they all stand up and are healed additionally. I think that'd be fantastic. And then, okay, listen, I'm gonna pitch this spell. Just bear with me, all right? If you could take Speak with Dead, then dead men would tell tales. All right, it's a bit of a meme of a spell, but it might be useful in gathering information, depending on how many spellcasters you have in your party. Maybe you never need to use this, maybe you occasionally use it. Those spell slots are going to get consumed anyway. We are now a 9th level character with the spell slots of a 5th level character. So I think those are going to get expended for sure. You can upcast with this 3rd level slot. Maybe you can tie into the Pirates of the Caribbean and use Speak with Dead. And I think that would be amazing. The next thing that we are going to grab is Bard 6. This is going to cap off our character. We are level 10, and College of Swords is going to get multi-attack, giving you 2 attacks per turn on your attack action. I know it took a while to get there. Relative to other classes, this extra attack is not that big of a boost. Because you can't apply sneak attack twice in a turn, you can't apply a flourish twice in a turn, you are basically just doing a normal rapier attack in the standard fashion. And that is totally okay. What I really view this as is a second chance, right? If you miss your attack, and you will miss occasionally, right? We do have the dueling fighting style, we have a good dexterity, we have our proficiency, of course, but every once in a while you will miss. You'll miss that sneak attack, you'll miss that opportunity to do a flourish, and you won't cancel out those opportunity attacks, so when you attempt to run away, you'll get attacked. And so you've got to use one of your emergency buttons like a bonus action disengage or the Eladrin's phase step. What this really gives you is a second chance to land that one hit. If you're up against an enemy with a decent armor class, 2 attacks is basically like rolling with advantage. And so you're going to, more often than not, get that one hit that you really needed in so that you can be consistently outputting the damage that you want.
And that be the pirate. Enjoy your swashbuckling, mobile, vicious little fighter duelist. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Archetype Builds.